Everyone to the Blind Pig podcast. All roads lead to Birmingham for the SLB Trophy final for both the men's and the women's team. We're here to do our full preview show, and I'm joined by the creator, the head honcho, and all-around good guy, Nathan Doyle, man from BritsDon'tJump. How you doing, brother? You all right?
Hello, mate. How you doing? I'm buzzing to be back. Back chatting to you again. We had fun the first time round, didn't we? So I can't wait to get this one going.
I don't want to make everyone jealous, but you're my favourite person to talk hoops with.
You should make them jealous. That's exactly what I want to hear.
And see, just quickly, man, obviously you are one of the hugest advocates I know for like the women's game, and that's why it made total sense to kind of bring you on. And I'm 100% going to be leaning on you here when we talk about the Caledonia Gladiators and the Sheffield Hatters. Be honest, do you watch the women's game more or the men's game more?
To be honest, now it's the women's game. If I am totally honest with you, I find myself refreshing myself on the men's game more, because the women's, I don't know, it's a tough one because I'm so into college hoops as well, that I find myself watching a lot of women's college games, and then because the times that the women's games are on, and I can just hop on YouTube straight after and go from a college game to a women's like SLBW game, and I don't know what it is, I just kind of enjoy it more at the minute. I genuinely, because obviously the atmosphere is not as good with the crowd, but it feels like the work into something. And if anyone wants to tell me professional male athletes don't have a massive ego, I'll call them a liar. Like, it's natural, because I think in that side of it, since they were kids, they've been the best at what they do, and they've had the egos stroked for that long, which it would happen to all of us. If our egos are stroked, we think we're unbelievable, which is why I went off. Well, I watch football, but it's kind of what put us off a bit. And male basketballers, don't get us wrong, I've spoken to like a lot of them. I've interviewed a couple. I've interviewed Mike Okoro, and for him being one of the best, he is one of the nicest men I've ever spoken to. He was just so nice. So it doesn't mean they've got a massive ego and they're not nice people, but I just feel like the women are working so hard towards something that obviously not rewarded as much as the men. And it just kind of makes it more enjoyable for me to watch. I feel like they're still fighting for something, and it feels like they're still trying to build a product. And by the way, they're not just building it, they've got it. Like the talent level, especially whether it's the college game where they've got so many rising stars, if it's in the WNBA, unrivaled at the minute, which is the 3v3 format. They've obviously got the Super League basketball women. There's so much talent in there. And with the professional game, especially in America, there's not that many roster spots. So there's so much talent around Europe. And that it's like the untapped potential, and especially on our shows when you've got the kinds of Georgia Gale, Tierra Hodges, mate, it's so enjoyable to watch.
100%, man. And I think for me that's why the trophy is so important, in the sense like it's the first real opportunity, I think, where SLBW and SLB men's are really placed on like that platform where they're saying both of these things are like major events, major sporting events, like regardless if it's kind of the men or the women's. And I know we've talked about this before, but some teams don't necessarily feel like they do that in terms of placing it on the same platform. But that's why the trophy is so important, like that exposure. And obviously the Betty Cadona Trophy for the SLBW is a huge chunk of their season, comparatively.
Yeah, it kind of kickstarts their season as well. It's kind of, obviously with the men's, what you've got is it's more sporadic. It's more like a cup competition where it kind of, you've got that, and then you've got league games, and then obviously you've got your European games. That's not the case in the women's. It's kind of, we're going to start with the Betty Cadona, and then obviously you drip feed a couple of games in between there and then go batter it. But it seems like you say, it's a large portion of it. And like, that's the best thing about the final is that the women's is obviously on the same stage as the men's. It's just before it, so there's more chance of people turning up to that because it's the same day. It's one event. It's class. The problem is obviously a lot of people who are buying the tickets are naturally going for the men's game, so they might turn up later. But if anyone has paid that money for the tickets, I would just put it out there. Go early, enjoy the women's game. It's on, you've paid for it. Go once, try it, and tell me you don't enjoy it. Tell me there's not talent on that court that's not going to make you watch again. Because I can guarantee you, there might be a few, because not everyone's going to like it. Not everybody's going to enjoy it. I don't know why. It's just basketball. It's not like it's a totally different sport. But I can guarantee the more people that watch it, the more often they'll tune in, especially when you've got say for instance, if you're a Sheffield fan and you're obviously not going to go watch your team this year, go watch the Hatters and you'll realise how good the team is and you'll want to watch it again.
Love that. I love that, man. And it's pretty close, honestly. Less than a month away now. February the 1st, Utility Arena. That's when it will all kick off. Before we get into previewing it, though, let's just talk a little bit about the format. We'll focus on the men, if that's cool with you, but we'll focus on the men's side in terms of the trophy format. Obviously, last year in Super League Basketball's first year, we were split into North and South groups before heading to the semi-finals. This year, we've broken off into 3 groups of 3, with the winner of each group progressing and kind of 1 wild card. It's quite an interesting format, the trophy, and I'm going to kick off just with a thought here, and I want your honest reaction to this, man. So, one of my frustrations about the trophy, and I said it at the start of the season, I'll say it again now, it's just like the timing of it is absolutely brutal. So last year we had all of our trophy games at the start of the season, and then we went into championship action. This year for the men it's been dotted around throughout the entire season, and it has made it so messy to try and follow what's a championship game, what's a trophy game. And we're in this weird situation now, so as we're recording, this coming weekend, London and Newcastle are going to play in a championship game. 2 weeks later, they're going to play in a cup game, and then they're going to play in the trophy final the week afterwards. So in the next 4 weeks, Newcastle Eagles and London Lions will play each other 3 times in 3 different competition formats. Like, how mental is that? Like,
no, I get what you're saying. For me, it's I don't personally mind it. I actually, the way it works, because there's 2 cup competitions, I don't mind. For me, I've always said this, I don't really care about 2 cup competitions. So I understand what you're saying, but for me, I would prefer maybe just the 1 competition. And then if you're going to do it sporadically anyway, if you're going to put games like what you're saying between the season, instead of having 2 cup competitions, because you do get confused between the trophy. It's not like say for instance, you've got the FA Cup and the Carling Cup, or whatever it's called now, like, whatever it is. It's kind of cup and trophy. So, I mean, I found myself getting confused a few times, like you say, especially when you play in the same team. You sometimes do get a bit confused with who you're coming up against. I mean, obviously, basketball experts shouldn't. Maybe that's why I'm not a basketball expert. But I do like, even the championship bit, what you said there, I do tend to, you do come in and out, because with that Surrey thing that happened the other week, where obviously London changed the venue, it was last minute to change. They could have changed it before that. Surrey fans were then affected because of this admin mistake. Obviously, naturally, I thought it was, because I didn't check it properly, I got tricked that it was a championship game. That's why I said, why don't you reverse the fixtures? I was promptly corrected. So I do understand where you're on about with the confusion. But for me, I would just love 1 cup competition. Maybe change the format where your group stages are different, because I think it's the cup competition where, is it the top 7 teams? I believe the cup one is where the top 7 teams are straight into the quarterfinal, and the bottom 2 fight it out for the 8th place team.
Yeah, that was just this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't get the point. What does regular season standings having to do with a cup competition? It's a different. Yeah. For me, everyone should be on a level. I get it, because there's 9 teams. You've got to find a way how to get that 8th team. For me, I would just like it where they work out a way to. Can we make 1 cup competition, or can we have 2 competitions where one is primarily our league, and maybe a second competition where, and this is off the top of my head, so don't quote us on it, a second competition where it's something different, where it doesn't feel like it's the same repeated competition, where maybe you get the BCB involved, or a few teams from the BCB maybe play like a qualifying tournament, and then they come up to our league, and then you play a cup competition and level out the teams that way. Maybe something different like that. The format doesn't bother us too much. I'm not too offended by it. I get what you're saying. But for me, it's more the actual thing of having 2 cup competitions where they're kind of the same thing. That doesn't excite us as much as it should.
No, I totally agree. And the only real difference is that I suppose the cup is a 1-game knockout, whereas obviously in the trophy we have kind of that group play in the start. Yeah. And the key factor for the trophy this year has been all about aggregate scores and point difference. So we have people progressing.
I hate it.
Viewers looking at Nate's face, they know exactly how he feels. This was mind-blowing, and I am so torn on. Let's do point difference first, and then we'll talk about aggregate scores. So in the group stages, point difference was the most important thing. And we had a thing where I stayed up till 2 in the morning before the last weekends, because I was just thinking about all the different scenarios that people could get through on point difference, like plus 15, plus 14, plus 13. If they do this do this. It was mind blowing the amount of different scenarios that could have come just from like point difference and trying to get
the point difference again. It's something that didn't offend us too much, but it was so confusing. It probably wasn't. There's probably like you see people like, and you see them online. There's obviously Daniel Routledge, who everyone will know. There's a lad who I say on Twitter, I hope he doesn't mind us using his name, Philip Brown, and them two. When it comes to basketball and stuff like that, I think they're geniuses, because they just seem to work stuff out straight away. Whereas in my head, I'm like, my God, what is even happening here? The point differential for me, I don't know. Because like you say, there was so much going on. I kind of was waiting for someone to tell us what happened, and I would imagine that's kind of a lot of what people would do out there as spectators, because you've got your experts who can tell you scenarios, but if, like you say there, you stay up till 2 in the morning to work it out, it's not like. But I suppose it's one of them where, what is the fairest way then? And it's easy to bring it down, but I guess what is the solution?
That is it. I don't like to think of solutions. I like to criticise and then someone else can fix it for me. But I was at the Sheffield Caledonia game where, to progress, they needed to win by 15 points. And in the fourth quarter, with like 3 minutes left, Sheffield had a 14-point... It was later than that. I think it was like with 2 minutes left, they had a 14-point lead. And so it's like real nail-biting stuff. Like, you know, this is going to potentially decide if they progress or not. And there were people who were standing up and leaving because they just didn't understand, like, point difference matters. It's not just about if they win this game. It's about if they win this game by X amount of points. And I think that's the part where, like, for a casual fan who's just coming or experiencing it for the first time, there has to be a way to communicate to them how important the game is and how important point differences is as well.
I think that is kind of, especially when you're at a point of you're building the sport where you're kind of looking to attract new fans. It's kind of tough, and you've got to make sure that's prevalent in the mind, like, to know exactly what's going on. But you see, if you're a casual fan, you're trying for a one-off, maybe you're like, we'll go for a beer first, and then we'll go try the basketball, see what that's like. If you want to grab their attention, point differential might not be it, because like you say, they might go, the game's finished, we'll go for another drink. That's probably your main issue with it, like you say, because you're probably going to struggle to attract other fans. The opposing argument is every point counts, so every play means something. If the coach is going to continue to draw players for the last second, because it does matter. So in that case, it is really exciting, that side. But like you say, if you're a casual fan, is it really what you know, and is it what you want?
Yeah, and I do like we say that. It definitely does limit the amount of blowouts that happen, and you get to see star players going all the way through the fourth because they want every point, everything matters. And I think next year, when hopefully we get an additional 10th team, I think we're probably going to revert back into like 2 groups of 5 rather than trying to do the 3 groups. And hopefully that leads itself to being like much more like it was last year, where it's like the top 2 teams in the group that progress. Yeah. So there's still a point difference element, but it's a bit simpler and a bit easier to understand than 3 different groups and multiple outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I think that is if you can work it out. So that is the problem, though. If you've got uneven teams and you're in groups of 3, it's kind of head-to-head might not work every time because it's such a little group. Like, so I suppose they've had to think of a way that works, and it does work. It definitely works, but the argument would be, is it going to attract new fans?
What about aggregate score? How do you feel about aggregate score in the semi-finals?
I don't know if we're swearing. I don't know, but I hear it.
We 100% are, bro.
Well, then it's bullshit. Do you know what? I've never liked aggregate score at the best of times in football. I mean, it's not ideal. I used to hate the away goal rule. I used to hate that. And it's not as bad because you're maybe chalking up 3 or 4 goals and one team wants to defend. You're not seeing loads. But when you're up to 100 odd points and you're going 212 to 214, and what's wrong with a 3-game series? I don't get it. Why am I watching? I can't stay excited by that. And you know what the worst thing is? Most of these arenas they've made aren't made for aggregate score. They've got the scoreboard, and I'm watching what the score is right now, right this second.
Yeah.
Do you want me to sit there on my phone and count for aggregates? I'm not going to. It's easy enough on the telly, it's not as bad. But I'm not going to sit there and count for you. It's one of them. I just can't enjoy it. And again, it's just a personal opinion. I've seen people online defend it. I don't know why. Because there's a better scenario where I came away from the first game, if you win an aggregate against Cheshire, and I'm like, right, halfway there. If you come away from a 3-game series and you've won that first game, it feels like a win. You're like, right, we've won. You don't feel like you've won an aggregate score because it's half-time. And I guess the argument's still there, it's half-time because it's a 3-game series and you don't know when it's going to go. But if you draw that second game, that third game's exciting. It's like it's game 7 in NBA Finals. It's like you've got to win that and you've got to play your best there. There's no more room for mistakes. Whereas you can turn up at the first aggregate game and you're like, oh well, let's see how it goes. Let's not lose by too many at Newcastle, and then we'll turn up at our home pitch. No, you want to blow them out in 2 games, so you're not going that third game and playing that extra game. I just it's not for me. I don't know. Maybe for some people, maybe someone can explain to us why it's good. Personally, I'm not going to listen. I don't like it, but everyone's allowed their opinion.
Please comment below if you'd like aggregate score, man. I agree, and I think like the 2 series that we had in the semi-finals, obviously London against Bristol, Newcastle against Cheshire, showed like the good and the bad of aggregate. So like the bad, right? The London-Bristol semi-final. London smashed them in the first leg. I thought Bristol were lucky to walk away just being down by 19 points on aggregate. And it made the second game, like, I went into that just thinking, like, what's the point? Like, there is no way that Bristol is going to beat London by 20 points.
Yeah.
When the only win they have over London is, like, they sweep past it. So one part, it kind of turned me off because I didn't really care as much about the second leg as London-Bristol because I just thought they're not going to do it. And even if they make a run, it's a fake run. And on the other side, Cheshire-Newcastle, if it wasn't aggregate, that would be 1-1. And we would be going to like a do-or-die game 3 in the series. So both of them kind of showed how aggregate score could be negative in some ways.
Yeah.
I suppose the other side, though, is what Bristol did in the semi-final actually totally surprised me. I didn't think they were going to fucking get anywhere close what they did. But, like, to hold a 16-point lead, to be down 3 points on aggregate, that was quite exciting to, like, feel the energy in the second quarter they could do it.
Yeah, that is like to play devil's advocate to myself. Imagine if you came back from a 19 aggregate down, like that's a memorable score. But just for me, when you're in a cup competition, it's not a league play. Like I've said it before, I don't watch London games often because I just presume they're going to win. So for me, if you're playing over 2 legs, the best team's obviously going to come out on top because they'll probably win the first game or they'll be close because they're not going to get blown out and they'll have the skill and like the knowledge to get through the second. Whereas if you're going into every game where this could be it, we could just nick a game here, it doesn't matter what score we put up as long as we win. Bristol were capable of that. If Bristol, like you said, if they're holding that lead, if they've won the second game and they're going to the third game, then it's such an exciting third game. But if you've got the aggregate score where to be lead, like obviously they reduce the deficit to 3 and not come out with a victory, it's a bit crap, isn't it? Like exactly. Yeah. So imagine if they kept it, they'd won that game, and then you've got a third game, and you're playing for the final. For me, that's exciting. I don't know.
Yeah. Dude, I had a guy in Bristol who was texting me on the second leg, and he texted me at half time, and he said, "This is amazing. We're going to do it as long as we keep shooting." He texted me back like near the end of the third quarter, saying it's over. All it took was one run just to destroy his faith.
How good as an emotional fan? It's brilliant, isn't it?
Oh man! Right, let's jump in then to actually previewing the games that are happening in Birmingham. We're going to kick off with the women's game first. 2 awesome teams in the finals. We have the defending champions, the Caledonia Gladiators, taking on the Sheffield Hatters. I'm going to hand over a little bit to you, Nathan, because you know way more than me about women's basketball. If you were going to describe the Caledonia Gladiators and the Sheffield Hatters to people who've never seen them play before, what would you say about the teams? Who are their stars?
Well, first of all, for me, this is the finals matchup. There's one team that could get to the playoff finals alongside them, and it's Essex, the way they're playing. They've got some class players, but for me, before the season, if you look at the Sheffield Hatters, in the moves Caledonia made in stealing Tierra Hodges off Newcastle, by the way, there's such a strong team. And for me, the Hatters, what's scary about the Hatters at the moment is I think the 5-2 in the regular season. They haven't got going yet. Georgia Gale that's a player to watch out for if you don't watch the women's game. We'll start with Sheffield. Georgia Gale has the opportunity to really make a mark in this game. Last year's playoff final MVP, it was her against Sam Ashby, who's now overseas. Sam Ashby was taking Oaklands all the way. George Gale decided to take it on her shoulders, 19 points, and brought the game back, and they ended up winning the playoff final. She is so important in this game that if she plays well, the Hatters are most likely going to win it. And she's just coming off I I think it was 2 or 3 games ago, she had a 40-point game. So if she can have that kind of production in the final, it might be all she wrote. But I think the most important thing to look out for in this game, it's not Georgia Gale and how she plays. It's Megan Mullins and it's Tiara Hodges. That matchup is going to be huge. For me, Tiara Hodges, I'm surprised she stayed in this league. When I heard she was going from the Eagles, she was there for 2 years, and she was one of our, probably the best player, but alongside last year we had Jada Gwynn and Lauren Psyche. That trio was phenomenal. Lauren Psyche who is now, I think she's in college, I think she's coaching over there in America. She is such a good playmaker. And coming off the pick of the role with Hodges, and then having Jada Gwynn, who is such a skilled basketball player, who can shoot, who can score, who can pass the ball. It was just the perfect combination. And then to hear she was going to Caledonia, straight away puts the Gladiators as competitors for the league. Like, the way she's obviously the top scorer for them. And the way she can get physical in and away, round the basket, she can defend, she can post up, she can put points there. If she's getting doubled, she can kick it out to Anastasia Warren, who is going to be massive as well in this game because she can put points on the board. It's going to be pretty tough to stop the Gladiators. It's one of them, though, where both teams are such good teams. It's going to be so hard to call it. You're going to need every player to be on the game. But if Megan Mullins for Sheffield can outlast Tiara Hodges and out-rebound and just defend well, put her under pressure, that means the scorers, the kinds of Demenga, Maura Fitzpatrick, Anastasia Warren, they're going to have to perform without their star player. So it's just such an interesting matchup. There's so many key matchups, but for me, that is the 2 players you're going to have to watch for this game.
Dude, I totally agree. Like, Tiara Hodges, 22 points a game, is absolutely unreal watching her score. Like you say, the variety of which she does it down in the low post, coming off the roll, nice little midi, and even the outside shot. You know, she's hit a couple this season. She
definitely can. It's just
better with the Glads. Maybe that's just my eye test, but
I think it's more because of the players she's got around her. I think that's what it is. She doesn't have to be out there, and the Gladiators succeed if she's in the paint. That's where they want her posting up and dominating the paints, because you have got Demenga, you have even got Hannah Robb. Might not be a prolific scorer, but if she's got to, she's going to put them up. Anastasia Warren, she can buzz around her. I think Hodges can play all roles. She's not a renowned shooter from deep, but if she's got to, she'll try it, and she might finish it. But that's what makes the Gladiators so dangerous. I think you've got to pick your poison if you're going to defend. You're going to have to double Hodges in the post, which, by the way, teams have tried, not always succeeded because she's so dominant. But then you've got to hope if she kicks the ball out to someone on the wing like Fitzpatrick, like Anastasia Warren, you've got to hope they're not going to finish them, and chances are they are. We've seen in recent weeks they put up over 100 points. They dominated Newcastle the other week. Dominated them. It wasn't even close, and Newcastle were unbeaten. So it's a pretty scary matchup. I just don't know how you stop Hodges.
I like how you described it as kind of that. These are the top 2 teams, and they're so closely matched in terms of how many points they have per game, their rebounding, their defense, their steals. I think a lot of this is going to be dictated by how well the Gladiators can defend the paint. Because I think definitely for Sheffield, things they want to do early is they want to set up people like Harrison down low in the block. They'll want to try and get her easy buckets down low to try and score. And I think a lot of emphasis can be put on people like Fitzpatrick for Caledonia in terms of how well they can defend some of the bigs. But I think so much of this is going to be about interior battle. How much can you defend the paint? How much can you make Sheffield become like an outside shooting team predominantly? And I think that's really going to dictate who maybe takes this one. Because I think they're both going to want to play fast as well. They're both very fast-paced teams, want to get out on the break. Yeah,
100%. But I think that's going to be the interesting thing. Who's going to dominate in transition? Because I was seeing in recent weeks that Caledonia really can't do that. They've hit teams very quickly. They've defended. They've been dominant in the paint. Then they've kicked the ball out. And it's been really impressive to what they're doing. Sheffield can do the same. I think we've obviously mentioned Georgia Gale. Another player to look out for is definitely Nina Crisper. Because she is really if you're getting in transition, if Georgia Gale's shots aren't falling, and they're not always, because I feel like, I spoke to Ollie Mitchell on my podcast, and he mentioned that the start of last season, you're seeing what Georgia Gale was doing was she knew she was probably one of the better players on the team, but she was kind of taking it personally and she was forcing shots. And if anyone did watch the playoff final last year, and if you've seen it this season now, she's recovered from injury. She's picking her shots so well. She's deciding so well. But naturally, they're not always going to fall. It's just human. So you're going to need the kinds of Nina Crisper to maybe getting in outside there and hitting her shots as well.
I'm interested in what you think about Sheffield's depth, though. I know they have a couple of good people coming off the bench. But I actually think in some ways, foul trouble, it is a danger for Sheffield. I think they probably run like 7-8 people rotation kind of coming off the bench. And I think if Georgia Gale picks up early fouls like she did in the playoff final last year, or particularly Megan Mullins, if she gets into foul trouble, I think then it becomes a much trickier picture for Sheffield in terms of who steps in and soaks up some of the scoring. The big scorers kind of get in foul trouble early.
Yeah, that's it's. I guess that's an issue for any team, right? Because you're in foul trouble and your players have got to drop the bench, your game plan goes to pot. I do think Sheffield have enough depth to handle that. Like I say, Georgia Gale, Nina Crisper, you've got Shauna Harrison, Chianne Stubbs. Stubbs is a really good player if you watch her as well. You've got Emma Gantini, you've got Lewis. There are players in there who, if something's not going well, it's going to be fine. Like you said, year 2 is coming on. She can also add a bit of depth. I don't know how much she'll feature in the final. I think, like you said, that could literally come down to foul trouble while she's getting up to speed with anything. But I think what works in Sheffield's favour in that respect is a lot of these players and a lot of the depth have played together for 2 years now. It's not like they're coming together and they're working things out. Like, these players will have a plan here, they'll have a plan B, they'll have a plan C, because it's just what they're used to. They know how to play together. We've seen in the playoff final. For me, I think as well, what helps them is they've won a trophy last year. This isn't to get into foul trouble. A lot of the time, you might think maybe they're panicking, and it's because they don't have the experience to win. They have the experience to win. It depends what Sheffield team turns up on the day, because, like I say, they had a good start of the season. They were winning games, but for me, when I was watching them, I don't think they were at peak performance yet, because you've seen the players that do have at their disposal. I think they're starting to come into that a bit more now. So I think depth won't be a problem. Maybe it might be on the other end for the Gladiators, because they head with, if you have Hodges in foul trouble, which I've never seen any evidence of, then things have to pivot quite quickly, and I don't think a team without Hodges wins the game.
Yeah, I know that Warren is she's like the 6th leading scorer at the moment, isn't she? In the league, so she does really, really well. But I thought in the last game that they played against Leicester, I thought there were moments where I thought Warren, you could see that she didn't have the same composure as Hodges in terms of being able to create her shot. It felt a little bit more like out of control when she was driving through the lane. I know the middy's good. It's always good for Warren, the middy, but yeah, I think again, she's the X factor for Caledonia. If she gets going early, if she's taking good shots, getting the shots in kind of a sweet spot, I think it will take a lot of the pressure off of everyone else in Caledonia if Warren's really going early.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an important point, actually, is how not just Warren but the players around Hodges play, because obviously you want Hodges to be grabbing the boards, you want to be putting up the points, but at some point you're going to have to take her out, because to carry that load, you need other players around you to play, you need them to score, you need them to move the ball. This season they've done it. This isn't like we're not making something up off the top of our heads. Like this, they've worked it really well, but on that day of the final, it's a different enemy. It's a different game completely, and when you're playing an opponent like Sheffield, who is smart, they've got such an experienced coach who's done it, been there, won everything, you're going to have to be at the top of your game. There's no like do-over. You need to win that game. So if the panic sets in, if Dominguez's shot's not falling, that becomes an issue. That because you cannot rely on one player. But if one person goes and their shot's not falling, others will start to panic. So you need everyone's shots to hit.
Domingo, just quickly, such a spark plug. Honestly, she changes everything about the game when she comes into it. Just in terms of their pace, their energy. I think she really lifts them.
Yeah, I think she's kind of an unsung hero, because I've spent half my time talking about Hodges here and obviously Warren, but for good reason. But with Dominguez, she's definitely an unsung hero, because she puts up points, she can play make, she can, like you say, she brings an energy to the game that in moments in the final they're going to need. The backs might be against the wall, and she can do stuff that other people on the floor can't, and she supplements them so well. If we're going to talk about hitting teams in transition, she might be one of them that needs to lead that. So yeah, it's honestly it's a matchup you wouldn't want to call.
Well, we're going to make our picks at the end.
Yes.
So hold that thought. Let's transition to the men's trophy final then. And we have your Newcastle Eagles against the London Lions. Newcastle Eagles, obviously defending champions from last year.
Yes.
I can't believe. I'm going to be honest. Like, we might cut this, we might not. I cannot believe the Newcastle Eagles are in the finals. They are such a weird team to me. I don't like them. I just don't. I don't like them. I don't get it.
Well, I think if I'm looking from a non-biased point of view, and I'm trying to get better at this, I promise, I'm trying to get better. Where I'm not as biased. I think with Newcastle, it's one of them where we started the season so slowly, and we just didn't have anything. For me, I was watching the game, and for me, I'm never worried about a regular season because there's such little jeopardy. As long as you qualify for the playoffs, you can work it out along the way. For me, with Newcastle, I was watching it, and there was nothing. There was no ball movement. There was no offensive plan. Every time we drew up a play, it didn't work. We were conceding points. We still weren't great on the boards, which was a massive problem last year. Something that worried us as well was the size of our roster. It's not massive. It's one of them where we're seeing last year, if we get a few injuries, we're going to be in trouble. So I didn't see the season getting better, but for some reason when it comes to cup competitions and knockout games and games where, again, we've said it, it's do or die, Newcastle seem to really thrive in that area, and I was so worried about Cheshire against that stupid aggregate score that over 2 games Newcastle might not last, but they've brought in players that have really helped us out. I mean, we've seen Maceo Jack, who came in quite late. He's really starting to find it. You've got Dion Hammond, who's joined lately, who I'm really impressed with. Terrell Burden starting to add something on the playmaking side we haven't had. When we lost Trey Pulliam in the summer, we lost Mike Okoro, we lost Seneca Knight. That's a big part of your team. And you could tell when we started the season, you missed those players. You would build a game plan, especially around Mike, especially around Seneca Knight, who would come off the bench a lot of the time and do damage when Trey Pulliam came in. Everything was kind of built around them. It was same with Trey and the team that there was actually an identity on offensively. We have not had that this year, but now for some reason the last few games they've brought in these players and something feels right about them. Are we the best team in the league now? Yes, no, absolutely not. We're not. But there's been improvements with them in and player leaps, like we've seen Emmanuel Canway at the minute. Mate, he is a different animal. I have been so impressed. In the paint, he's scoring now. I think it was against Sheffield the other week. I was there. He was blocking shots. He was rebounding. He was putting up points. He was getting and ones. He was everything we've needed for 2 years. And I feel like that is definitely one of the main differences. I've been so impressed now with the development of this side. And for me, for us to win the final, and I know we'll predict who's going to do it, for me, it's got to be a perfect game. And luckily, I think one thing about Newcastle is, though it might not be the best at ball movement, we can make shots out of nowhere at times. For us, we really can be good in transition on our day. And I think that's going to be an aspect that's going to hurt London the most. So it's one of them where Newcastle are far from the best team in the league, but they're also, on the day, they're probably one of the teams you don't want to face.
Yeah, I do totally agree with that. On paper, London is 11-2, number 1 in the Championship, top dog. Newcastle, I think they're 7th at 6-8 or something. So you look at it on paper and you're like, this should be an easy win. And one of the players that you called out there, I think a huge amount is going to rest on his shoulders if Newcastle is going to win, is Terrell Burden Jr. Offensively, the playmaking that he brings, the skill that he brings, and also the calmness and the maturity to be able to run the sets that Mark Suter wants to help him to find the mismatches. That is something that is missing when he's off the floor and Raysean Taylor's there. And Raysean Taylor has a different skill set in terms of being able to score the ball, probably a better 3-point shooter. But Terrell Burden has definitely elevated everybody into playing more team-style basketball, more Stutel basketball. But on the defensive end, he gives up a lot. Lot. Just the size. Blame hormones all you want. If he was 3 inches taller, much better.
I think that's kind of where Canway comes into it, because his leap lately defensively, it's going to be important against a team like London, because we'll obviously touch on their players, but you look at their depth, they've got mismatches for every kind of player. And if they know that Burrell Jr., like you say, is a bit weaker defensively, and by the way, he's not the only one, I think, when Mitch Clark's on the floor, he's weaker well, he'll hustle and try, but if you're going to have a player that's twice the size, you're coming at you with intent, aggression and athleticism, you kind of can't do much about it. So them are going to be the important parts, which is why if Newcastle are going to have a chance, Burrell Jr., he's going to have to be that calm head, be that playmaking presence, because we're going to have to play a perfect game, and for that to be a perfect game, you need your playmaker to be on the ball. If he has to sit back and not score as many, that might be his responsibility. He might have to do that. He might have to let his teammates feed while he playmakes, because if we're not going to hit them on transition, you need someone to dictate the play who's going to move the ball, find them mismatches, like you said, maybe find Canway in the paint when he's open, which is going to be very unlikely against this London team. I think he's going to have to be on the floor for the majority if we want to win this game.
I just think, though, defensively, like, the most likely matchup is he's going to be guarding Shavar Reynolds Jr. Like,
could you imagine that yourself? It's a nightmare. I would be scared now if I was him, and it's 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away. So,
I think the matchups are so tough for Newcastle. Like genuinely, like, because you'd say, like, well, if we were trying to hide him on defense, where would you hide him? You put him on, like, Amin Adamu, who's lightning quick and shooting really well from deep at the moment.
Yeah, you probably can't hide him, because that's the thing about London, that they'll expose you where they want. They'll switch when they want to. They'll work in screens. They'll work off screens. The off-ball movements, incredible. And by the way, like I say, I don't really like watching London that much, but you can't deny how good they are, how good of a team, and with everything they've got. And we haven't even touched on Aaron Rye yet, who has found his role in the team. And even again, he's not going to be able to be guarded by someone that's not able to handle physical attributes, you know. So it is a tough matchup, there's no doubt. But this is the cup. That's what it's for, you know. On a one-off game, it's not impossible. And Newcastle, like you said, you don't like Newcastle, and there's probably a reason behind that, because we haven't been that good. But in one-off games in the cup, in recent form, we have found an identity, and it's. If you can stick to that identity, if you can stick to, because Stutel loves a transition, if you can stick to that transition and you can hit London, there is a chance.
Yeah. And I think, like you say, like, and this is part of my reason why I think I get frustrated with the Eagles, is like, in my head, they shouldn't be as good as they are. And the way they prepare for critical games, one-game moments, that is like their bread and butter, how Mark Stutel was able to set a game plan to shut the other team down and make sure his team succeeds. Like, even in the group stages of the trophy, like what they did against Caledonia and Sheffield, they came in ready just to win that one game because they knew how critical it was. And so if there's one thing I do believe in, is that I think that Mark Stutel will probably outcoach Coach Savonis in this. I think he'll throw a couple of curveballs at him, whether that's in like some zone defences, really exploiting the way that London switch to try and have, you know, some easy buckets for some people. And I'm really looking for Mark Stutel to make Cole Long's life easier. I think if Cole Long can get going like he did in that second leg against Cheshire, that is going to swing the pendulum in a huge way to Newcastle.
I'm glad you... Firstly, Stutel for me, and I've had me criticisms... Personally, I've had me criticisms about him lately, and that's... It's not down to his coaching, because he's a brilliant coach, but before the start of the season, and I don't know if I've said this on a podcast or anything, but I will say it here, because it is my thought process. For me, there's a reason Newcastle started poorly, and I don't know if it's because of his Team GB prep, but it felt like we came into the season underprepared. Now, if that's down to him on recruitment, if that's down to... Because I don't know anybody that would do the job properly when you're sharing it, when you're sharing a load, because he had a big responsibility in the summer. Like a big responsibility. That is... It's kind of... You were talking about the future of British basketball. He had to prepare and he had to get that right. For me, I don't understand how a person can do that and then come to the domestic team and still perform at the highest of levels. And if I'm being honest, and if I ever meet him and he said, "Oh, I heard you on the Blind Pig podcast saying this," I would say to him, because I genuinely don't know how you could prepare in that fashion. And I think it showed at the start of the game we lacked an identity. Obviously, the signings that were brought in. Now, I don't know how it works. I don't know how recruitment works. I don't know how heavily involved he was or is, or any coach is, for that matter. I don't think our squad was anywhere near where it needed to be at the start of this season. There's just... And it was... The proof was in the pudding. You've seen our results. You've seen where we were in the table. We were below Caledonia at one point. It wasn't good enough. But as a coach, on his day, drawing up players when he has put everything into it like he did last year because he had nothing to concentrate on. He's a sensational coach. I don't know if he personally will out-coach Sabonis, 'cause also, great coach. His brother in the NBA is one of my favourite players, even though everyone calls him boring. And watching Sabonis on the sideline, for me, I don't know if it's him. I don't think he's as good as drawing up players as Stuart is. Like you say, Stuart will probably draw up them players. But the way he has coached a philosophy into that team, the way they defend, they're defending perfectly. He's on the sideline defending as well. He's a sixth man. He's on his hunches. He's down. He's low. He looks like he's defending. He looks like he motivates the team. I would want to play for him. I see him shouting on that sideline. I want to go out for a jog 5 minutes later. He is a very good coach, but it's like you say, it's going to come down to key moments. And if Stuart can show how good of a coach he is, which he is, and I'll dispute anyone that says it, he is a brilliant coach. And if he can draw up players and keep them key players involved, again, Newcastle have a chance.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think it means something to them. Like, obviously it means something to London as well. And we have a fan question later that touches on this. But for Newcastle, right, if they win the trophy again, their season is a success instantly. Like, regardless of what happens in the Cup, in the League, in the playoffs, they've succeeded this season and massively outperformed expectations. Like you say, at the start of the season, we was trying to get excited about Caleb Huffman being the guy who was going to lead the Newcastle Eagles and that being the star signing. And this just feels different, man. It feels different now than how it did 3 months ago.
Yeah, I think that's it's a testament to the players they brought in as well, like 100%. Like, the season was down and out, and for me, I agree with you. Again, you would think pressure's on London because they're expected to win everything, but I think if they lost this, they're probably still going to win 2 other trophies. I would be surprised if Newcastle got that far, but again, we're kind of talking about the same thing. We didn't expect Newcastle to be here right now, but to win a trophy in a season that started so poorly, and in a time where we've got European basketball that's kind of been more of a hindrance than anything else, we're not going to go that far in that. It feels like if we can get a trophy in a good playoff run, I don't think you would find any Newcastle fan that would dispute that.
Totally agree, man. It's going to be interesting to see the game plan, especially with them playing twice before the trophy final. They're going to be really familiar with each other. They're going to know the sets, they're going to know the plays, they're going to be well prepared. There'll be no excuse of, you turned up on the day and you didn't know what you're expecting from either side. They should be there. From the London Lions perspective, I think you called it out. They win if they play defence like they did in that third quarter of the first leg, holding Bristol to 7 points. Yeah. And that was all grit and tenacity. And that's what they can be at their best, the Lions. They can just stop you in your tracks and make you take these horrible hero shots at the end of the shot clock. The defence is crazy, bro. It's crazy.
I think that's the thing. That's why I think Newcastle is a tough opponent for them, because you need to be good in transition, because if you're not good in transition and they get set, what do you, like you said, you're going to be throwing shots up that are never going to make it, and you're going to be playing hero ball the whole time. Because if you're going to go ISO on one of their defenders, you're going nowhere, because they just lock people up. They cannot move. Their feet are so quick. It's unbelievable. The feet, the hands. And you know what it is I try to do, because, like I said, I'm not an expert on London. I've obviously watched a few of the games because they're the best team in the league and they're going to be in the finals. I thought I'd do a little bit of research to see who was the main defender. They barely make any blocks. They don't make that many steals. It's purely good defending and forcing shots and forcing turnovers. And for me, that's the best kind of defending. Statistics look great. But if you can do that without even having to foul or do something ridiculous to someone shooting, it just shows how well coached, how well drilled you are. And firstly, it shows you they've got 5 players on the floor that are so well drilled, and they've got a knowledge of the game and how to defend. And then they've got players on the bench who are going to come and not negatively impact the game at all. And I think that's so rare to find. And it's going to make it even harder for Newcastle to beat them, because, like I say, you've got to play the perfect game. You've got to play the perfect game in transition, because if they get set, you are doomed.
Yeah. I think as well, you've just got to know when to step on their throats if you're London. They have to win the minutes that Canway and Mitch Clark are on the floor. If they win those minutes, and they should destroy them in those minutes. I love Canway. I do think he's made a huge jump. But if Canway gets switched on to Dean Williams should blow past him every time and score. Do you know what I mean? I think Canway's matchup is going to be horrendous for him. I don't like him on Ethan Price, like trying to stop Ethan from doing like little ghost screens that he does and then the pick and pops. I think that's tough for Canway. I think Jonathan Williams is just more athletic than him. If I'm London, I'm targeting Canway, and I'm definitely targeting Mitch Clark when he steps on the floor. I'm putting him in every pick and roll coverage.
Yeah, I think
expose him.
But it'll sound like I don't like Mitch Clark, 'cause I really do. I love the energy he brings on the floor when he's there, and I've seen him take some charges where no man should get back up, but he gets back up. I think that will be a problem when he's on the floor, because they are going to target him. But with Canway, I don't know how he stops them, but for me, if I'm coaching Canway, I say, get yourself in the paint. I don't want you jumping for every shot because they're going to come at you, they come and get fouls. Just put them off, do what you can, put a hand in the face, do something to try and stop them. I would say don't get involved in a physical battle on defence, because the worst thing is, if you get him to foul out, that's an even bigger problem than having him on the floor.
Yeah.
Because I really like Canway, and I think he will make a difference in this game. But if you lose him, I don't see where the defence comes on, because as much as I love Darius Defoe, and I don't actually know if he'll be playing, I don't know if he's injured still or not, or he's back in. I might have missed that, because he took a pretty heavy one against Sheffield. Yeah, so he's back in, is he? I missed the last couple, so I think the problem is Darius Defoe, I love him in the mid-range, he still hits them. He's a defensive presence, but if you've got a young, energetic, athletic team running at Darius Defoe, that's going to be a bigger problem than Canway, I think.
Yeah. The other problem I think is going to be Chasson Randall. So in the last 2 games, Chasson Randall has just had an absolute resurgence, and he's like turned into like Real Madrid's Chasson Randall. Like I think he went like 4 for 5, then he went 4 for 6 in the next game. He's doing it with like just like this calm confidence and swag, where like he knows that he can toy them. There was a moment in the second leg against Bristol where he got switched on to Pasquale Landolfi. He did 2 crosses, hit a hezzy, and then just pulled a 3 in his face. And he ran down the court like he'd done nothing. And it was fucking sick, mate. It was brutal. Like, if Chasson Randall continues to play like this, I think that's such a tough cover. Such a tough cover. And London, I suppose on the flip side, the pressure is on them, like you say, to win this. I think the expectation for them is that they're going to do the clean sweep. You know, they're going to get all 4 major awards this year. And so they probably will feel this. There might be some tightness to it. Quick question though. We had a really good fan question about the London Lions that said, assuming that Cameron McGusty is healthy, who do you think are the 4 non-national players that will play in the trophy? So obviously they have Reynolds, McGusty, Chasson Randall, Lucas Younis, and Williams III. So one of them might have to sit out. Who do you think it would be?
Honestly, I'd go Reynolds, Randall. Oh God, Williams. That's a good question. That's a tough one. I would honestly, if he was fully fit, I'd say McGusty.
Yeah.
But do you have a problem where there's games before it, so he might get fit? But when you've got players that can replace him, who can do just as good of a job, is it worth risking him for the rest of the season because they've got a long season ahead of them, right? They're going to be playing a lot of games still. Is it worth risking McGusty when you know how talented he is and the potential he can reach? Is it worth risking him? I would imagine McGusty might sit this one out, just for sheer fitness reasons. If it was talent-wise, I think he would be in there. But if I was Sabonis and I'm thinking the long term, I would probably think in my head that this team has enough to get past Newcastle in the final without McGusty, and I don't want to risk him. What would you say? Which player would you go for?
Yeah, so I agree. I think it's between McGusty and Lucas Younis. And it's going to really depend, I think, what Coach Sabonis wants on the floor. If he wants someone to create space and to be kind of that pure shooter, then Lucas Younis is definitely the option. He's not as long or as athletic as McGusty is, though, defensively. I think you do lose something with Lucas Younis on the defensive end. I think we definitely saw that a little bit in some of the games, definitely some of the Euro Cup games. You know, he's often the target. So it depends what Sabonis wants. I just think that's a very brave call to leave Cam McGusty off of the roster if that's what he chooses to do. Because that is, you know, one of your star players, the MVP in Poland last season. And you're essentially saying, we don't need you to win this game.
I think it's more because you need him for the rest of the season. It's one of them. But as a player, by the way, if you tell me I'm missing out a final when you say like I'm not talented, I'm fuming. I'm not happy. Yeah. But I think if the coach pulls me one side and says, look, the reason you're not playing is because you are so talented. We're going to need you in bigger games. Obviously they've got the playoffs, so you could rest them in league games. There's no way they're going to miss out on that. But there's just so much else for them to play for. The worst thing for them, if they want to be serious about competing on all fronts, is having McGusty fit, and to risk him in a game where they can get over the line without him. Is it worth it? I personally, because I'm not a risky person, I wouldn't take that risk. But also the argument is there that how do you tell a player that talented that he's not playing?
Yeah.
No, I'm leaving him out. I want to be definitive. I'm leaving him out. Sorry, team.
All right, you're leaving out McGusty. I'm leaving out Lucas Younis. I think that's my firm pick. If they're all healthy and ready to roll. Okay, let's get to some fan questions. We had some really good ones, and then we'll get into predictions. Okay, so one fan question for both games. How likely is a blowout? I think it will be over by half time. They said.
The main for the London Lions and Newcastle game.
Let's do both. How likely is a blowout for the men or women's game? And for context, last year the women's game was great in the trophy. That was a really tight game.
Yeah, that was a real. Yeah.
The men's game was brutal. Bristol went down by like 25, didn't they, in the first half? And
I think, in my mind, there's no way the women's game goes to a blowout. I think there's too much quality on that floor. And the only way it would go to a blowout, and again, I've never seen any evidence of this, is if one team decides they're getting beat and that's it. I've never seen that. I don't think either one of them coaches is going to let the Gladiators or the Hatters do that. In terms of Lions Newcastle, I do think it'll be over at half time, because I think when Mitch Clark drops 30 points, the Lions are going to be doomed. So it'll be no. I don't think it'll be over at half time. I don't know. I don't think it will be a blowout. I've seen too much from Newcastle. Oh, God, I'm torn my heart again. I need to think with my head. No, I don't think it will be. I think in cup games, Newcastle are hyper-competitive. Do I think they'll win? Personally, obviously, I think London will win. I'm going to root for Newcastle. I do think London will take it. I think there's a chance Newcastle can. But I don't see either being a blowout. I'm hoping, because who wants that? But no, I'm going to say no. No blowouts.
Yeah, definitely no blowouts for the women game from me as well. I'm on alert for what things look like in the first and second quarter. I think if things get bad, especially if Newcastle's shots aren't dropping in the first half, it could signal a potential blowout. But I'm hoping that it's going to be close for both. Okay, this is a good question. So, did you watch Sabonis's pre-game talk in the semi-final, and did it feel less serious because it was done in a classroom? Have you seen this clip of Sabonis?
I haven't seen it, but if it was done in the classroom, that is horrendous. That is not the level I want to be at. And if I was a player sitting there and I was at a school table, by the way, in these seats, what kind of classroom are we talking? We're not talking primary school, right?
Dude, let me find you the clip. I have to share it to you.
If we're sitting on Lego chairs, I mean, it's never going to be serious. Lego chairs with Peter Rabbit sitting on our desks, we're doomed. I can't believe I've missed that. I've never seen it anywhere.
Yeah, man, they posted it on their Instagram. It's really interesting. So he's there and he's giving like a really impassioned talk about how he's a first-time coach, about how much this means to him and how important it all is. And then you zoom out and you can see like all like the biology stuff on the wall. It's weird.
Do you know what it is though? I've just been saying, for me, if Sabonis is a coach, it's who I want to play for, because he's so motivational. So I can imagine that talk being really motivational. Again, from a classroom, I think it'll definitely be interesting to watch. Oh, is this it here, is it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I like the speech. I mean,
I don't know how many finals you guys have won, but I haven't won a real finals as a coach. As an assistant, I have. And I want this. And I want all of you guys to want it, because it's fun. It is really fun to win. It's really fun to open up a beer, drink with the team after the win, and then go out and have fun and do all that kind of crap, because we're the best in something. But to do that, you have to come every day. Each and one of you, all of you, playing the right way, our way, with our defensive stuff and our offensive stuff. All right, guys? This is, at the end of the day, it's our jobs, but it's a game. You have to enjoy playing these games. And enjoy playing a game that takes us into a finals. Let's go to the yeah. Good job. There you go. Lines on 3, 1.
It wasn't the most motivational speech I've ever heard, but I liked it. If I was doing an all or nothing documentary, I would probably say a changing room would be more arousing than a biology classroom.
I'm not sure arousing is the word.
But do you know what it is? I prefer a biology classroom than I prefer an English classroom. Because if I see another book of Mice and Men and we're talking about Lenny petting rabbits, I think that's really what would ruin the mood for us.
Mate, I can totally imagine that as Jonathan Williams is like pre-game sort of read. He's just like, he's there reading of Mice and Men, and Coach Davonis comes over to him. Let's go, Jonathan. You want to feed the alfalfa? Come on, you want to feed the alfalfa? You got to play well in this game.
As long as he doesn't come along with a glove of Vaseline, I think we're all right. Like,
oh man, crazy. All right, let's get into it then. Let's talk predictions. Predictions for the women's game. Who do you have winning the SLBW trophy?
So are we going winner and by how many? Or we're going just winner?
Feel confident.
All right.
I'm not sure I have quite how many, so I'm going to do this on the fly. But
I'm going to go Caledonia Gladiators by... Let's go 7. 7 seems like a good number. Gladiators by 7.
And I'm going to take the Hatters by 4. I think it'll be tighter. I think 7's a big one. Give me the Hatters by 4. Okay, men's final.
Right.
Go with the head of your heart.
No, I'm going with me heart. I'm going with me heart because head's so boring. I'm going to go Newcastle Eagles by 1. Clip it.
Wow.
Clip it.
When they win by 1, this is the clip they'll play.
Aye, that's
Put it on
it.
the Jumbotron. Okay, I've got to ask you then. You think they'll win at the buzzer by 1?
Yeah.
Or you
I want to
think
see at the
London will
buzzer.
miss a
No,
shot?
I think buzzer. Let's go buzzer because it's more exciting. I want to go buzzer.
Okay. Nice. I'm going to go much less exciting. I think this is the start of London's like full-on dominance. I expect a London win, and I think they'll win by 8. I think they'll go up pretty high in the third quarter. I think Newcastle will do a fake run to pull it back. But yeah, give me London winning by 8.
I think in all seriousness, if Newcastle want to win, it's going to have to be kind of in that fashion. I think they're going to have to keep it close. Because like you say, if London get off to a big run in the first or second quarter, there's just, against this Lions team, there's no real way of pulling it back. Like you see, you're going to have the momentum swing in your favour at one point. If that's going to happen enough for you to bring it back against a coach that can switch up matchups, you can bring people off the bench, your players are going to get tired, you're going to bring in people who are weaker defensively. It's not going to last. So if Newcastle genuinely do, and if I'm being serious and Newcastle want to win that game, they've got to keep it close, and it's going to have to be by a couple of scores.
Well, we will find out February the 1st, Utility Arena. It's going to be an awesome, awesome game. Honestly, mate, I've loved chatting to you about this, though. The men's final, the women's final, and definitely for everyone listening, comment down below, let us know who do you have winning both the men's and the women's trophy final. Mate, if people want to follow you, engage with you, read some of the articles, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, firstly, we've got a website that's BritsDon'tJump.com, and we've got a couple of fantastic writers over there who are covering Surrey, covering the Caledonia Gladiators, they're covering Newcastle Eagles. So we've got plenty over there. We've got some NCAA stuff, so definitely pop along to that. And also our weekly podcast will be back, guests permitting, from this weekend, hopefully. So they can definitely keep an eye out for that as well, which is the Brits Don't Jump podcast. It's on Spotify, YouTube, and all your favourite platform providers. That was good.
That was perfect.
Thanks, mate.
We're going to put all of their socials down in the description as well, so make sure you give them a follow. Honestly, great content coming out of Brits Don't Jump. Definitely the best basketball journalists in the UK right now. Calling it now, shooting my shot. I'm not waggling for a job though. Don't worry, you don't want to read my writing.
Yeah, we need more writers. Get amongst it.
Yeah, that's the other plug. If you are an aspiring writer or a journalist and you want to be part of Brits Don't Jump, they're always recruiting for talented people. So hit him up, man. This could be you on the podcast next week. If Nathan can get his
that
way,
quick. That quick.
Cool. But we'll catch you in the next one, guys. Appreciate it.